The world we inhabit is first and foremost a thing of beauty. Humans have this incredible, innate desire to explore and discover, and nature is full of breathtaking scenery and intricate life. But the elements aren't all happy hikes and vacation photos. In all the mystery and magnitude, there's something terrifying lurking just out of sight, something a little harder to articulate. Luckily, filmmakers have latched onto this primal, ominous feeling, using it like a knife to cut viewers to the core.
KDK 12, are you receiving?
In the animal kingdom, there are a number of near-universal constants determining behavior. One such rule is that there is safety in numbers. Whether there are predators near or simply a high likelihood of getting lost or trapped, it's always best to stay with the group. Humans are no different, so when filmmakers can separate characters from one another or from the possibility of rescue, we can't help but be unnerved by the inherent danger of being alone. For example, take these two sequences from The Shining. Here we see Jack and Wendy Torrance being shown through the beautiful Overlook Hotel. There are guests walking around, people are interacting with one another. Sure, Jack is already showing sinister characteristics, but for the most part, there isn't a real sense of danger yet.
Well, they're really gorgeous. As a matter of fact, this is probably the most gorgeous hotel I've ever seen.
Oh, this old place has had an illustrious past. In its heyday, it was one of the stopping places for the jet set, even before anybody knew what a jet set was. We had 4 presidents who stayed here. Lots of movie stars.
Royalty?
Contrast that with Danny Torrance roaming the empty halls of the Overlook on his tricycle. Sure, there are a whole myriad of subtle differences, sound, perspective, but this is still the same Overlook Hotel as before, with the bright colors and ornate decorations. The difference here is that Danny is completely alone. He is small, helpless, and far, far out of sight. If there's something around the corner or behind a door, nobody is coming to help. Now that's terrifying in its own right, but maybe not very elemental. After all, Danny is still in a man-made building with his family. But nature is a constant pressing force in The Shining. And once communications and transportation are cut, Danny's solitude in the halls is a lot like the Torrance family's collective solitude in the snowy mountains surrounding the Overlook. There are miles and miles of snowed-out road. The message of the isolation in all this wilderness rings loud and clear. Nobody is coming to help. In film, and really in all art, the only real limit is imagination. Unfortunately, there is a limit to suspension of disbelief. Movies can get as crazy and outrageous as the filmmakers want, but at some point, the audience will lose interest. We stop caring about things because we don't have any frame of reference for what's going on. We can't be afraid of something if we don't understand what it is. Basically, if something gets too weird or too abstract, it stops affecting us on a personal level. Luckily, there's a way to keep audiences engaged without neutering filmmakers' creativity. Give them something they do know. With even just a kernel of well-placed relatability, we can get right back into the stories, however extreme or bizarre. This is another place where the elemental narrative can be used to great effect. For example, look at the monster from the 1982 version of The Thing. Side note, I was going to look at the 1951 version, The Thing from Another World. But come on, just look at Kurt Russell's hair. I couldn't resist.
Poor baby, you're starting to lose it, aren't you?
Now, back to the monster. The Thing is just as elemental as any natural environment could be. There's no nuance or intricacy to its motivation. The Thing wants nothing more than to consume and destroy. In terms of its design, The Thing is impeccably crafted and pretty freaky. But it's also completely ridiculous. A lot of people seeing it for the first time nowadays would even say it looks dumb and fake. But the creature, as fun as it is, isn't what makes The Thing so scary. The driving force behind the real terror is the oppressive nature of the elements. Just like earlier in The Shining, the crew of The Thing is completely alone, with no chance of escape. The parallel here is that the elements, that massive, isolating tundra, is a similarly unstoppable, immovable force. We can understand being isolated. We can understand being trapped far away from help. So when the filmmakers mix those into the equation, we can almost understand The Thing too. Mystery makes people uncomfortable. There's a thrilling aspect to it, but also a deep discomfort. Nature is full of this empty feeling that comes with not knowing, because as much as we love to pretend we have control over our environment, there are a lot of things we still don't know about nature. Undiscovered species, unexplored locations, the world is just too big for us to understand all of it. Horror, which tries to instill a similarly unsettling feeling, absolutely loves hiding in the unknown territory of nature. Now this one is a little different, because I don't think it's nearly as masterful as The Shining or The Thing from earlier, and it certainly isn't as famous, but I think it does a really good job of showing just how powerfully the fear of the unknown can be used in an elemental narrative. Since it's not so well known, I'll give a quick explanation of the setup. A group of friends are pushing outside their comfort zone, taking a long hike through the mountains of Sweden, and one of them hurts their leg. Since they have several days of hiking left, they decide to take a shortcut through the forest to get to a town as quickly as possible. Now, just by the context of this video, it's not that hard to guess how good of an idea that is. There are images that range from unsettling to downright terrifying. But the most oppressive, horrifying thing of all is the woods themselves. Early on, the ritual establishes just how limited visibility is by showing the group as they walk through the trees. They are completely obscured until they get relatively close to the camera. As viewers, we scan the environments again and again, looking for something out of place, until eventually there is. So much can go wrong at any moment in nature, and humans just aren't equipped to handle it. It's not what's actually outside of the tent, or behind the trees, or around the corner that scares us so bad. It's what could be. Now, I think it would be irresponsible of me to pretend that the elemental narrative mode is the only reason these movies are scary, because that just isn't the case. Each of the movies I've discussed covers a wide variety of physical and emotional components, whether it's as nuanced and complex as grief, domestic tension, and distrust, or as simple as the fear of sharp teeth and loud noises. These movies have a lot more depth than I've discussed. Even so, I really do think that there's a unifying factor at play here. There's something beyond us out in the elements. It's a lot bigger than us, and not always friendly. So we can still drool over mountains, oceans, sunsets, and waterfalls. In fact, I think that's a really important thing to do. There's so much beauty in the world, but no amount of beauty can keep the bad things away at night. Nothing can. That's why we stay afraid. And that's why the elemental narrative isn't going anywhere.
Usher's right.